Welcome to the coding class once again. Today, what we are going to do is to learn Python data types. Now, in Python, basically for today, we are going to learn the Python data type numbers. If we want to use numbers in our Python programming, we have data types that's required of us to use. So, for example, to the Python data types, number, and under the number, we can have ints. This int holds for any integer you want to use in your Python programming. The next one we will look at is float. This comes with decimal point. Any number you want to use that includes decimal point, you are required to use the data type float. The next one we will look at is complex. Complex. Now, anytime you want to use a number in your Python programming. But you see, some numbers are mixed with both numbers and characters. So you can see we can have example like 5.6a. This and a Python data type is classified as complex. So if you want to use or you are writing a Python program that includes the numbers mixed with characters, it's called complex, or you use the data type complex. We will start writing few Python codes under the data type numbers. For our first one, you will target is integers. Integers. So for example, we can say num1, that we are defining our space is equal to 5. Now you want to print we want to know the data type of each of the numbers we are going to input in our program. Our program should be able to tell us this is a data type integer, float, or complex. So the next example we will use here, we will define another one. So let's say float, a floating number. We'll move on to the third one. So we can copy this and edit it. Let's say we have something like this. Key. So num 3. Okay, so here we define five different data types here. Number one, we are saying five. Then number two, we are saying 5.71. Number three, we are saying 5 plus 1 G. We want to know the respective data types of each one. So we are going to run our program. So you go to the menu, then you click on run. Right, now you can see from my screen, it says 5 is of the type class int, 5.7 5.71 is of type class float, 5 plus 1G is of type class complex. So whenever you want to use a Python program, but you actually have to identify or let the user know, or you actually declare the space of which you want to store any input a user would want to. So for example, you say, oh, we should collect an input which is an int, that's integer, or an input which is a float, or an input which is a complex number. Now when you define it as such, when the user refuses to put or to input that defined one, the system will output error for the person. Let's to look at another example. Here we will define the various data types. So you say int 2.3. Then we are saying it should print the number one for us. So you can see here we have defined integer, but inside there we put 2.3. That's a float. So you will see what it will print. Either it's going to print an integer or a float for us. The next one we are going to use here. So you say int, say 2.4 as a negative float, and we will require our program to print a number for us. The next one we can look here, so we can use the next data type. So float, let's say float 5, and we say it should print. So let's print this and see. Now you can see from our results, we input number one, we input 2.3, but we declared it as an integer. So it printed an integer out of the 2.3, it says 2. The same way applies to the second one, an integer, but we declared it as a negative float, that's negative 2.4. It brought us an integer, negative integer, that's 2. The last one is a float. We just declared an integer instead of a float, that's instead of a point number. It printed a point, that's 5.0. So the data types helps you to actually streamline your application in such a way you collect any the data you want a user to actually input there. For example, this can be compared to when you are building an HTML form, and in a field you want a person to input a name while the person inputs a number. Definitely, if you have actually applied a rule there, or you actually restricted it, or you've actually indicated the type of the field you want to take, if the person input a vice versa, there is no way that form can be submitted. Same thing applies. Please, any question? All right. Now I will introduce you to another one called list. List. So in Python, you can create a list, then you output the list. So list2 is a data type in Python. So list, we will say num, and we will declare a list. So you will say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And we are going to print this list. So you will just say print num for us. So this is a list. In Python, you can put or you can declare values in a space. Declaring these values in a space is called list. So you can call this space and it will print every value in this space. So here we've created a space num and we've declared values 1 to 7 in the space. Now we are going to print the space num, which is going to actually print the values in the space for us. So let's run our code. Now you can see here the values in the list have been printed 1, 2, 3 up to 7. Please, any question? In Python 2, there is a method you can use in case you are declaring a list and you forget to actually include something. So you include a variable. You can bring a function or a method called append. Append is used to add items in an already declared list. So let's declare a list. So let's say we have a list here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now we declare this list. You print saying print num for us. Now let's run. Now we have 1, 2, 3 up to 7. We want to add 8, a number 8 to the list here, but we don't want to go straight here and add 8. We can use a method called append. Now here's how you can do it. So you call the space that's num dot append. Then we will include the letter we want to. So append here we are meaning literally we are going to add another character or another value to the list. So print num. So you can see here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. We can append as many as we want, or we can append wherever we want to add it. So In a case you are building your app and you forget to bring something, there's a way to add numbers, not directly, but using a method called append. Please, any question? Now, what if we have two lists? We want to join the list so that it prints as one. We can use a method called extend. Extend. So, for example, I have my first list, that's num, that is 1 to 7. I want to do a second list. So I'll say num1. So num1 is the second list. Okay. 8, comma 9, then 10. Now I want to, when I print it will only print this one because it's num here. When I add one here, it only prints this one. That's num1. But if I want to print both together, you use a method called extend. So this is how we use that method. So we will call the first function num is equal to, or num dot extend, num dot extend. Then we will bring what we want to extend it to, num1, num dot extend num1. Then we will print. So we bring our print. So our print. We are just going to print the num here. So let's see what happens. The first, what we are doing here is to add two lists in one output. So we want to print these two separate lists together. We used a method called extend. So now that's the first list dot extend num1. So the first list in addition to the second one. We are going to print it. So we print num. Let's run it. So here you can see we were able to print 1, 2, 3, up to 10. That's extending from num1 to num2, or num1, extending from num to num1, printing values from 1 to 10. Please, any question here? Okay, now there is a way we can also change values in list. Let's say we want to change the number 10 to, let's say, a letter A while not touching it. So we can do this. So we want to change number or number or the item 10 in the num1 to a letter A. We will call the space, that's num1, as a function. Then there is something you should know. Now, all these lists you declare, they are all taking memory spaces, and each memory space is assigned a number. Starting, so this is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 memory spaces. Here is taking 0, 1, 2 memory spaces. So each of them is in separate memory space starting from 0. So number 1, the memory space the value 8 has occupied it's 0. The next the memory space the item 9 has occupied is 1. The memory space 10 has occupied is 2. So it's 0, 1, 2. Those are the memory spaces. So we want to change the item in the memory space 2 in the method or the function number 1. And when we go to the function number 1, the memory space 2, that's 0, 1, 2, is occupied by 10. So we are going to call the memory space 2. So 2. Then we tell it should be changed to letter A. I'm going over again. Now we've declared list, and in each list we have items in them. Now note that the items in each list is occupying spaces. For example, each space starting from 0. So when we take this function or this list, this 8 here is occupying the memory space 0. Here is occupying the memory space 1. Here is occupying the memory space 2. Now we want to change the memory space 2 in the function number 1. So we will call the memory space 2 here and tell it to change it to A. Now we are going to print the whole list we declared. Right, let's clear this. Let's get rid of the extent first. Let's print memory space 1 instead because we are using the 1. Let's try and print it again. Okay, now we are able to print the function number 1 and replacing 10 with 8. Replacing 10 with A, the number A, because we are saying in this function or list, we've listed the items 8, 9, 10, which is occupying the memory space 0, 1, 2. Now we came here and called the function. Then we went to the memory space 2. Whatever is occupying there, we are replacing it with a letter A. Then we called or we printed out this function. So it printed out here 8, 9. Instead of 10 here, we replace it with 8. So gave us A. Any question, please? Now, what if we want to remove an item from a list? So maybe 8, 9, 10. I want to remove an item from here. So maybe I want to remove 9 from this item. We can do that by calling the function number 1 dot will remove. Here we are going to straightforward remove 9 from our list. So straightforward, we are going to remove 9 from our list. Then we print it. Right, now here you can see we've been able to remove 9 from our list, leaving only 8 and 10 for us. Please, any questions so far? Right. So these are the data types or and how you can use them in Python. Kindly practice along, and in our next meeting we are going to apply more to it to build a real world application. Thank you for joining today's class.